I should have seen it coming the night my wife told me she married me out of pity. Standing in our marble kitchen, her family's kitchen really, she looked me dead in the eye and said I was a charity case, a project, someone she thought she could save from my sad little mechanic's life. Her father had been saying it for years. I wasn't good enough, would never be good enough, was holding his precious daughter back. And you know what? I let them all believe it. I let them think I was just some broke black man who got lucky marrying into their world of country clubs and charity galas. What they didn't know, what none of them knew, was that the man they pitied, the man they looked down on, had $8 million sitting in accounts they never thought to ask about. And when she finally discovered the truth, well, let's just say some exits are quiet, but the echoes last forever. If you're watching this, subscribe and tell me where you're from, because you're about to witness the slowest, most dignified revenge story you've ever heard. Claude é uma EA e pode cometer erros. Por favor, verifique as respostas. I should have known something was wrong when Eleanor stopped touching me. Not in the obvious way. She still brushed past me in the hallway, still sat across from me at dinner, but her fingers never lingered on my shoulder anymore. Her hand never found mine under the table. Tonight, driving home from another charity event, the silence in the car felt heavy enough to crush me. I kept my eyes on the road. The city lights blurred past us, gold and white streaks against the darkness. My hands gripped the steering wheel at 10 and 2, exactly how I'd been taught. Everything I did was measured, careful. I'd learned early that a black man couldn't afford to be careless in spaces where he didn't belong, and according to Eleanor, I didn't belong anywhere near her world. You embarrassed me tonight, she said suddenly. I didn't respond. Sometimes silence was safer. Did you hear me, Marcus? Her voice was sharp. You barely spoke to anyone. You just stood there like. She stopped herself, but I could fill in the blank, like the help, like someone who didn't belong. I spoke to people, I said quietly. You spoke to the waiters. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. You're more comfortable with the staff than with my colleagues. Do you know how that looks? I turned onto our street. Our street. Funny how it never felt like mine, even though my name was on the deed right next to hers. How does it look? I asked. Like I made a mistake. The words hung in the air between us. I pulled into the driveway of the house. Her family's house, really, though they'd given it to us as a wedding gift. 5 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, a kitchen bigger than the apartment I grew up in. Marble everywhere, windows that stretched from floor to ceiling. I'd never asked for any of it. I parked the car and turned off the engine. For a moment, we both sat in the darkness. I'm going to bed, she said finally, opening her door. I watched her walk toward the house, her heels clicking against the stone pathway. Everything about Eleanor was precise. Her blonde hair fell in perfect waves down her back. Her dress probably cost more than most people made in a month. She carried herself like someone who'd never doubted her place in the world. I used to love that about her. I sat in the car for another 10 minutes before following her inside. The kitchen was all white and chrome, gleaming even in the dim light. Eleanor stood at the island, pouring herself a glass of wine. She didn't offer me any. We need to talk, she said. Something in her tone made my stomach tighten. I leaned against the counter, keeping distance between us. Okay. She took a long sip of wine, studying me over the rim of her glass. I've been thinking about us, about this marriage. I waited. When we met, you were different. Or maybe I was different. I don't know. She set down her glass. But lately, I look at you, and I just feel disappointed. The word hit me like a fist. I kept my face neutral. Disappointed how? You have no ambition, Marcus. You're content to spend your life fixing cars. My father's right. You're never going to be anything more than what you are now. I'd heard her father say worse. Caleb Whitmore didn't hide his feelings about his daughter marrying a mechanic, a black mechanic at that. I like my work, I said evenly. Your work. She laughed again, that harsh sound I'd come to hate. You mean getting grease under your fingernails? Coming home smelling like motor oil? That's not work, Marcus. That's just settling. I felt something crack inside me, something I'd been holding together for months, maybe years. Why did you marry me, Eleanor? The question seemed to catch her off guard. She blinked, then her face hardened. You really want to know? Yes. She picked up her wine, glass again, swirling the dark liquid. I married you out of pity. The kitchen suddenly felt very cold. What? Pity, she repeated, looking me straight in the eye. You were this sweet, lost man who didn't know how the world worked. You needed someone to guide you, to give you opportunities. I thought I could help you become something more. My hands gripped the counter edge. You thought you could fix me. I thought I could save you, she corrected, from poverty, from that sad little life you were living. I gave you everything, Marcus. This house, my connections, my name, and you've done nothing with it. I stared at her. This woman I'd loved, this woman I'd married. She looked like a stranger. I never asked you to save me. Of course you didn't ask. She moved closer and I caught the wine on her breath. You didn't have to. I saw what you were, what you came from. I felt sorry for you. Is that what you wanted to hear? Something inside me went very quiet, very still. I thought about my mother, who'd raised me alone after my father died, who'd worked 3 jobs to keep us fed and housed, who'd taught me that a man's worth wasn't measured by his bank account, but by his character. I thought about the money I'd earned and saved over the years. Money Eleanor knew nothing about because she'd never asked. Never wondered why I didn't need her generosity. I thought about all the times I'd bitten my tongue when her father made his comments, when her friends looked at me like a curiosity, when Eleanor herself introduced me as my husband, the mechanic, with just enough emphasis to make sure everyone understood I was beneath her. You done? I asked quietly. She frowned. That's all you have to say? What do you want me to say, Eleanor? I want you to fight. I want you to prove me wrong. Show some emotion, Marcus. Show me you're capable of feeling something. I looked at her for a long moment. Then I pushed away from the counter and headed for the door. Where are you going? To bed, I said without turning around. Like you said you were going to do. That's it? We're done talking? I stopped at the doorway. You said you married me out of pity? I'm not sure what else there is to say. I heard her glass slam down on the counter. You're proving my point right now. You're weak, Marcus. You won't even fight for your marriage. I turned back to look at her one last time. Some things aren't worth fighting for. Then I left her standing in that cold, perfect kitchen. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in the guest room. I'd moved there weeks ago, though we'd never talked about it, and stared at the ceiling. The house was so quiet I could hear my own heartbeat. Pity. She'd married me out of pity. I thought about the first time I'd seen Eleanor. She'd brought her car into Tom's garage 3 years ago, a BMW with a busted alternator. She'd been frustrated, tapping her foot while I explained the problem. I'd found her beautiful, but distant, untouchable. Then, I'd fixed her car in half the time I'd quoted, and she'd smiled, really smiled. It had lit up her whole face. She'd come back the next week with a problem that didn't exist, and the week after that. By the third visit, she'd asked me to dinner. For 6 months, we'd dated in this bubble where none of the outside world mattered. She'd seemed fascinated by my stories about growing up in the city. I'd been mesmerized by her confidence, her intelligence, her drive. Then, we'd gotten engaged, and the bubble burst. Suddenly, I was meeting her parents, her friends, her colleagues, and I saw how they looked at me, not as Marcus Hill, the man Eleanor loved, but as the black mechanic she was slumming with. Eleanor had defended me at first. She'd argued with her father, shut down her friends' comments, but slowly, over the 2 years we'd been married, she'd stopped defending me. She'd started joining them instead. I picked up my phone from the nightstand. The screen glowed in the darkness as I opened my banking app. The numbers stared back at me. 8 figures. Every cent earned through careful investing, smart choices, and the inheritance my father had left me. Insurance money that had been tied up in trust until I turned 25. My mother had taught me to be quiet about money. People treat you different when they know you have it, she'd said. Let them see your character first. So I'd kept working at Tom's garage, kept driving my modest car, kept living simply while my accounts grew. Eleanor had never asked about my finances. She just assumed I had nothing. She'd married me out of pity. I closed the app and set the phone down. For the first time in our marriage, I felt clear-headed. The fog of love and hope and trying to make it work, all of it lifted. I knew what I had to do. Nothing. I wouldn't argue, wouldn't explain, wouldn't defend myself or prove anything. I would just let the truth reveal itself, slowly, naturally. And I would watch what happened when Eleanor realized she'd never truly known the man she'd pitied. Morning came too soon. I heard Eleanor moving around downstairs, the coffee maker, her heels on the marble floor. She was getting ready for work. I stayed in bed until I heard her car pull out of the driveway. Then I got up and got ready for my day. Jeans, work boots, a plain t-shirt. I looked at myself in the mirror and saw what Eleanor saw. A mechanic, someone small, someone who needed saving. I smiled. It didn't reach my eyes. At the garage, Tom was already working on a transmission. He looked up when I walked in. "You look like hell," he said. Tom Alvarez had owned this garage for 20 years. He'd given me my first real job when I was 19, fresh out of technical school and hungry to work. He'd taught me everything about cars and a lot about life. "Rough night," I said. He wiped his hands on a rag. "Eleanor?" I didn't answer, just grabbed my tools and headed for the car I'd been working on yesterday. A classic Mustang. The owner wanted a full restoration. Tom followed me. "Marcus, I don't want to talk about it." "You never want to talk about it." He leaned against the workbench, arms crossed. "But maybe you should." I popped the Mustang's hood and stared at the engine. "She told me she married me out of pity." The silence that followed was heavy. "Jesus," Tom said finally. "Yeah? What did you say?" "Nothing." I reached for a wrench. What's there to say? A lot, I think. I started working on the engine, my hands steady even though my mind was racing. Talking won't change anything. She sees me a certain way. Her family sees me a certain way. Nothing I say will make a difference. "So, you're just going to take it?" I looked up at him. "No, I'm going to let her keep thinking she's right. Let her keep believing she saved me." Tom frowned. "That doesn't sound like you." "Maybe you don't know me as well as you think." He was quiet for a moment. Then, "You're not going to tell her." It wasn't a question. "Tell her what?" "About the money, about everything you've built." I turned back to the engine. "Why would I?" "She never asked." Tom shook his head. "This is going to end badly." "It already ended badly," I said. "This is just the epilogue." My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out and saw a text from Eleanor's assistant. Reminder: dinner at the Whitmores tonight at 7 p.m. I'd forgotten about that. Monthly dinner with Eleanor's parents. Usually an exercise in humiliation. I texted back, "I'll be there." Tom saw my expression. "The in-laws?" "Every month like clockwork. You don't have to go." "Yes," I said quietly, "I do." Because I needed to see it all clearly, needed to understand exactly what I was walking away from, Needed to make sure I had no regrets when I finally closed the door behind me. The Whitmore estate sat on 5 acres in the most expensive part of the city. The house was a monument to wealth: white columns, sprawling lawn, a fountain in the circular driveway. Eleanor was already there when I arrived. Her car sat near the front entrance. I parked behind it and sat for a moment, gathering myself. I could do this. I'd done it before. Smile, nod, stay quiet. Don't give them ammunition. The front door opened before I could knock. Eleanor's mother, Patricia, stood there in pearls and a smile that never reached her eyes. "Marcus," she said, "come in." The house smelled like expensive candles and fresh flowers. Everything was perfectly arranged, not a thing out of place. I followed Patricia through the foyer into the dining room, where the table was already set with china that probably cost more than my first car. Caleb Whitmore sat at the head of the table. He didn't stand when I entered, didn't smile. Eleanor sat to his right, already halfway through a glass of wine. "Marcus," Caleb said, my name sounding like something distasteful in his mouth. "You're late." I checked my watch. 6:58. "I'm early, actually." "Barely." He gestured to the seat across from Eleanor. "Sit." I sat. The first course came out, some kind of soup I couldn't identify. We ate in silence, broken only by the clink of spoons against bowls. Finally, Caleb spoke. "How's the garage?" "Good," I said. "Still changing oil and rotating tires?" I met his eyes. "Among other things." "Must be fulfilling work." His tone made it clear he thought the opposite. Eleanor said nothing, just drank her wine and studied her soup. "It is," I said. "No ambition to do something more?" Caleb pressed. "Eleanor's offered to help you, set you up in something better, but you're content to stay in that grimy shop." I set down my spoon carefully. "I'm good at what I do. Being good at something doesn't mean you should do it forever." He leaned back in his chair. "You're holding Eleanor back, you know. People talk. They wonder why she married someone so beneath her." Patricia touched his arm. "Caleb, it's true." He turned to his daughter. "You could have had anyone. Marcus, I mean," he gestured at me vaguely. "What does he bring to this marriage besides manual labor?" Eleanor finally looked at me. I waited for her to defend me, to say something, anything. She raised her glass to her lips, said nothing, and I understood. This was her world. These were her people. She'd never defend me here because she agreed with them. I'd married someone who didn't think I was good enough for her. The rest of dinner passed in a blur. More comments, more judgment, Eleanor's silence. When it was finally over, I stood to leave. "Marcus," Caleb called, "next time try to dress appropriately. This is a family dinner, not a barbecue." I looked down at my clean jeans and button-up shirt. Then I looked at him. "Have a good night, Mr. Whitmore." I walked out without looking back. Eleanor caught up with me in the driveway. "Marcus, wait." I stopped next to my car. "I'm sorry about my father," she said. "He doesn't mean—" "Yes, he does." I turned to face her. "And you let him. You sat there and said nothing." What was I supposed to say? "Anything, Eleanor. You could have said anything." She wrapped her arms around herself. "You're being dramatic." "Am I?" I unlocked my car. "Go back inside. You're missing dessert." "Marcus." But I was already getting in the car, already pulling away, already done with this conversation. In my rearview mirror, I saw her standing in the driveway, small and alone despite the mansion behind her. I felt nothing. That scared me more than anything else that had happened tonight. Because if I felt nothing, that meant whatever we'd had was already dead. I was just the last one to let go. The phone call from my mother came at midnight. I was still awake, lying in the guest room, staring at shadows on the ceiling. When her name lit up my screen, I knew she sensed something was wrong. Mothers always knew. Baby, she said when I answered, you sound tired. I'm okay, Ma. Don't lie to me. Her voice was warm but firm. I raised you. I know when you're hurting. I closed my eyes. It's complicated. Marriage usually is. I heard her settle into her chair, the one she'd had since I was a kid. But complicated and wrong are two different things. What if I told you Eleanor married me because she felt sorry for me? The silence stretched long enough that I thought we'd been disconnected. She said that? My mother asked finally, word for word. And what did you say back? Nothing? What's there to say? Plenty? She sighed. Marcus, listen to me. Your father, God rest him, he taught you to be quiet, to be careful. And those are good things for a black man in this world. But quiet doesn't mean silent, and careful doesn't mean letting people walk on you. I know. Do you? Because you're still in that house, still with a woman who sees you as a project instead of a partner. I sat up, running a hand over my face. It's not that simple. It is exactly that simple. Her voice softened. Baby, I didn't raise you to beg for respect. You're worth more than that. You've always been worth more than that. She doesn't see it. Then let her not see it somewhere else. Not in your house, not in your life. We talked for another hour. She told me about her garden, about the neighbors, about everything except what we both knew I needed to hear. But her message was clear. Stay where you're respected or leave. When we hung up, I felt something shift inside me, decision settling into determination. The next morning, Eleanor was in the kitchen when I came down. She wore a silk robe and held a coffee cup like a shield. We need to talk about last night, she said. Okay. My father was out of line. I poured myself coffee. Was he wrong? She frowned. What do you mean? Ooh, everything he said. Was any of it wrong? Or just rude? Marcus, because I'm trying to understand something. I turned to face her. If you think I'm beneath you, if your father thinks I'm holding you back, why are we still married? She set down her cup. I never said you were beneath me. You said you married me out of pity. That's not the same thing. Isn't it? Her face flushed. You're twisting my words. I'm repeating them. We stared at each other across the kitchen island. This woman I'd loved. This woman who'd reduced our marriage to an act of charity. I have to get to work, she said finally. Eleanor, she stopped at the doorway. Do you love me? The question hung in the air between us. She didn't turn around. I thought I did, she said quietly. Once. Then she left. I stood alone in the kitchen, listening to her footsteps fade away, listening to her car start, listening to the sound of her leaving. I finished my coffee slowly. Then I got dressed for work. The days blurred together after that. Eleanor stayed out later and later. Business dinners, she said. Networking events, charity functions I wasn't invited to anymore. I didn't ask questions, didn't check her phone, didn't play the jealous husband. I just watched and waited. At the garage, I threw myself into work. The Mustang restoration was coming along beautifully. I'd sourced original parts, rebuilt the carburetor, and was repainting the body in its factory color, a deep blue that caught the light like water. Tom watched me work with concerned eyes, but kept his questions to himself, until one afternoon when I was under the Mustang and heard voices above me. Don't know how much longer he can take it, Tom was saying. He's stronger than you think. That was Jake, one of the other mechanics. Marcus always keeps it together. Nobody keeps it together forever. I rolled out from under the car. Both men jumped. I'm fine, I said. Tom crossed his arms. You're working 70-hour weeks. You're sleeping here half the time. That's not fine. I like staying busy. You're avoiding going home. I stood up, wiping grease from my hands. Can you blame me? Tom and Jake exchanged looks. What? I asked. Nothing, Tom said. Just be careful, Marcus. Whatever you're planning. Who says I'm planning anything? You've got that look. He pointed at my face. Same look you had before you quit that corporate job to come work here. Same look you had before you bought your first investment property. You're plotting something. I smiled slightly. Maybe I'm just finally seeing things clearly. That's what worries me. That evening, I came home early. I told Eleanor I'd be working late, but something made me turn the car around. The house was quiet when I walked in. Her car was in the driveway, so I knew she was home. I found her in the living room, curled up on the couch with her phone. She looked up when I entered, and something flickered across her face. Guilt, maybe, or annoyance. You're home, she said. I live here. She set down her phone, screen side down. I thought you were working late. Changed my mind. I sat in the chair across from her. Who were you texting? Just Lydia. Your friend from college? Yes. She picked up a glass of wine from the side table. She's having problems with her husband. I was giving her advice. What kind of advice? Just marriage stuff. Why are you interrogating me? I wasn't, but her defensiveness told me everything I needed to know. I'm not, I said. Just making conversation. Well, stop. You're acting weird. I stood up. I'm going to take a shower. Marcus, I paused. Are you having an affair? The question hit me like cold water. I turned slowly. What? You've been distant. You're never home. When you are home, you barely speak to me. She stood up, clutching her wine glass. If you're seeing someone, just tell me. I stared at her. This woman who'd married me out of pity, who'd let her father insult me, who was texting someone and hiding her phone. No, I said quietly. I'm not having an affair. Then what's wrong with you? With me? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Eleanor, you told me you married me because you felt sorry for me. You let your father treat me like I'm nothing. You don't touch me, don't talk to me, don't defend me, and you're asking what's wrong with me? She flinched. I was upset when I said that. I didn't mean, yes, you did. I moved closer. You meant every word, and that's fine. But don't pretend you don't understand why I'm distant. So what? You're just going to punish me forever? I'm not punishing you. I'm protecting myself. From what? From you. The words settled between us like stones. Eleanor's eyes filled with tears. I can't do this anymore. Then don't. What does that mean? I looked at her for a long moment. It means whatever you want it to mean. Then I left her standing there and went upstairs. In the guest room, I lay on the bed and stared at the ceiling. My phone buzzed. A text from Tom. You good? I typed back, getting there. Another buzz. This time from my financial advisor. Investment portfolio up 12% this quarter. Call when you can. I opened my banking app again. The numbers were still there. Still real. Still mine. Eleanor thought she'd saved me. Thought she'd given me everything. She had no idea what I'd built on my own. 2 days later, I was having lunch at a small diner near the garage when I saw them. Eleanor and a man I recognized from one of her charity events. Tall, white, wearing a suit that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. They sat in a corner booth, heads close together, laughing. Her hand was on his arm. I should have felt something, rage, hurt, betrayal. Instead, I felt relieved, because now I knew for certain. This marriage was over. Whatever we'd had was gone, and I could stop pretending. I finished my lunch slowly, watching them without them seeing me. She smiled at him the way she used to smile at me. 3 years ago, before her family's opinions mattered more than her heart. When I left the diner, I walked past their booth. Eleanor didn't see me. She was too busy laughing at something the man said. I got in my car and drove to the bank. The private banker's office was all dark wood and leather. Marcus Chen had been handling my investments for 5 years. He knew more about my finances than Eleanor ever would. Marcus, he said, standing to shake my hand. Good to see you. What can I do for you? I need to organize some things, I said. Get my accounts in order. He nodded slowly, understanding without me saying it. Preparing for a separation? Preparing for a new chapter. We spent 2 hours going through everything: investment properties, stock portfolios, retirement accounts, the trust from my father, the business I'd quietly started 3 years ago, buying and flipping classic cars. All of it was solely in my name. Eleanor had never contributed a cent, had never even known it existed. You're in excellent shape, Marcus said. Very smart moves over the years. You could retire tomorrow if you wanted. I smiled. I'm 32. Exactly. He leaned back in his chair. So, what are you going to do? Keep working. Keep living simply. Keep being exactly who I am. And your wife? She's going to learn that pity isn't love, and that the man she looked down on never needed her at all. Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then he smiled. Good for you. We shook hands, and I left with a folder full of documents. Everything organized, everything clear. When I got home, Eleanor's car wasn't there. I went to the garage, our garage in the house she thought she'd given me, and looked at the space, empty except for my work truck. On impulse, I pulled out my phone and made a call. Marcus? The luxury car dealer sounded surprised. Been a while. I'm ready, I said. That Lamborghini we talked about last year, is it still available? The Huracan? Yeah, man. It's yours if you want it. I want it, but I need it kept off site for now. No problem. When do you want to come in? Tomorrow. Cash. He whistled. You got it, brother. I hung up and stood in the empty garage, imagining the car that would soon be mine. The car I'd earned. The car I'd bought with money I'd made, not money someone had given me out of pity. Eleanor thought I was small. She was about to learn just how wrong she was. That night, she came home around 10. I was in the kitchen, eating leftover pizza and reading a book about vintage car restoration. She walked in and froze when she saw me. Marcus. Eleanor. We stared at each other like strangers. We need to talk, she said. Okay. She poured herself wine. Always wine lately. I haven't been honest with you. I set down my book. Go on. There's someone else. The words should have hurt, should have torn me apart. Instead, I felt nothing but cold clarity. I figured, I said. She looked shocked. You knew? I suspected. Saw you with him at lunch yesterday. And you didn't say anything? What was there to say? She slammed her glass down. Don't you care? Don't you feel anything? I used to, I said quietly, but you can only tell someone they're not good enough so many times before they start to believe you. I never said that. You said worse. You said you married me out of pity, Eleanor. You said you tried to save me. How is that better? Tears ran down her face now. Real ones, I thought. I was angry. I didn't mean... Stop. I stood up. We both know you meant it, and honestly, I'm done being angry about it. I'm done feeling small in my own house, my own marriage. Where are you going? For a drive. Marcus, please, we need to figure this out. I looked at her. One last time. You already figured it out. You found someone from your world, someone who fits, someone you don't have to be embarrassed by. That's not fair. Neither was pity. I grabbed my keys. But here we are. I left her crying in the kitchen. I drove aimlessly for an hour, finally ending up at the garage. I let myself in and sat in the Mustang I'd been restoring. The leather seats smelled new. The dashboard gleamed. The engine, I'd rebuilt it by hand, was perfect. This car was mine. I'd taken something broken and made it beautiful again. I couldn't do the same with my marriage. My phone buzzed. A text from Eleanor. "I'm sorry. Please come home so we can talk." I deleted it. Then, I opened my banking app one more time, looked at the numbers, looked at everything I'd built while she thought I had nothing. Tomorrow, I'd pick up the Lamborghini. Tomorrow, I'd start letting her see the truth. But tonight, I sat in a car I'd rebuilt with my own hands, and I let myself feel peace for the first time in months. The next morning came gray and cold. I woke early in the guest room, my room now, really, and got dressed quietly. Eleanor's door was still closed. I didn't knock. At the dealership, the Lamborghini waited in the showroom. Bright yellow, aggressive, beautiful. "She's all yours," the dealer said, handing me the keys. I signed the papers, transferred the money, all cash, all mine. "You want to drive her home?" he asked. "Not yet." I ran my hand along the hood. "Keep her here for now. I'll come by to drive her." He looked confused but nodded. "Your call, man." I drove my work truck back to the garage and spent the day working. Tom noticed something was different. "You seem lighter," he said. "I feel lighter." "Eleanor?" "It's ending. Just a matter of time now." He nodded slowly. "You okay with that?" "More than okay." I tightened a bolt on the Mustang's engine. "I'm ready." That evening, I went home to find Eleanor in the living room with her friend Lydia. They stopped talking when I walked in. "Marcus," Lydia said with fake warmth. "How are you?" "Good. Eleanor tells me you've been working a lot." "I like staying busy." They exchanged looks. I ignored them and headed for the stairs. "Marcus," Eleanor called, "can we talk? Alone?" I paused. "I think we've said everything we need to say." "Please." Something in her voice made me stop. Not hope, just exhaustion. Lydia stood. I should go anyway. When she left, Eleanor patted the couch next to her. "Sit with me, just for a minute." I sat, not next to her, in the chair across from her. "I ended it," she said, "with James. I told him I can't see him anymore." "Okay? That's all you have to say?" "What do you want me to say, Eleanor?" "I want you to fight for us." Her voice cracked. "I want you to care." I did fight. For 2 years I fought. I ignored your father's comments, your friends' looks, your embarrassment every time you had to introduce me. I leaned forward. I fought every day just to feel like I belonged in my own marriage. And you want to know what I realized? She waited, tears streaming down her face. "I don't belong in your world, but that's okay, because you were never going to fit in mine either." "What does that mean?" I stood up. "It means we made a mistake, both of us." "So that's it? You're giving up?" "No," I said quietly. "I'm letting go. There's a difference." I went upstairs and closed the door. Behind it, I heard her crying. I felt sad, but not guilty, because for the first time in 2 years, I was choosing myself. And that felt like breathing after drowning. The house felt different over the next few days, quieter, colder, like we were both ghosts haunting the same space. Eleanor tried. I had to give her that. She made coffee in the morning, asked about my day, suggested we watch a movie together. But her efforts felt hollow, desperate, like she was trying to save something that had already bled out. I went through the motions, polite, distant, done. One morning, I found her in our office. She stood at the desk, holding my tablet. Her face was pale. "What are you doing?" I asked from the doorway. She jumped, nearly dropping the tablet. I couldn't find my charger and I thought you'd go through my things." "No, She stopped, looked at the screen, then at me. "Marcus, what is this?" My stomach tightened. The banking app. I'd left it open. I walked over and took the tablet from her hands. It's my bank account. That can't be right. She stared at me like I'd grown a second head. That number, that's not real. It's real. But she grabbed for the tablet. I held it away. Let me see it again. That was $8 million. 8 million. 8.2, actually. She stumbled backward, sitting heavily in the desk chair. How? Investments. Inheritance from my father. A business I started a few years back. A business? Her voice rose. What business? You work at a garage. I own 3 investment properties. I buy and restore classic cars and sell them to collectors. I've been doing it since before we met. I set the tablet down. I just never mentioned it. Never mentioned it? She stood up, face flushing red. You've been lying to me. I never lied. You never asked. That's the same thing. No, I said calmly. It's not. You assumed I had nothing because I'm a mechanic. You assumed I needed your help, your money, your saving. I just let you believe what you already thought. She paced the room, hands in her hair. This is insane. Why would you hide this from me? Because I wanted someone to love me for who I was, not what I had. I did love you. You pitied me, I corrected. Your words, Eleanor, not mine. She stopped pacing, stared at me with something between anger and shock. So, this whole time, while I thought I was supporting us, while my father was criticizing you, while everyone was looking down on you, you had millions? Yes. And you just let them? Yes. Why? I moved to the window, looking out at the perfectly manicured lawn, the fountain, the house that had never felt like home. My mother taught me something when I was young, I said. She said people show you who they really are when they think they have power over you, when they think you need them. So this was a test? Eleanor's voice was sharp. You tested me? No, I just didn't pretend to be something I wasn't. You did that all on your own. That's not fair. I turned to face her. You married me out of pity. You let your father disrespect me at his dinner table. You had an affair with someone from your world because I wasn't good enough. Tell me, Eleanor, what part of that is fair? She opened her mouth, closed it. No words came. That's what I thought. I picked up the tablet. I'll be staying in the guest room. I think we both know where this is heading. Marcus, wait. But I was already walking away. Behind me, I heard her slide down to the floor. Heard her sob. I kept walking. Tom knew something had shifted the moment I walked into the garage the next morning. What happened? He asked. She found out. About the money? I nodded, grabbing my tools. Left my banking app open. She saw the account. Jake whistled from across the shop. How'd she take it? About as well as you'd expect. I moved to the Mustang. The restoration was almost done. Just final touches now. She's angry I didn't tell her. Can't blame her for that, Tom said carefully. I looked up at him. Can't you? She spent 2 years assuming I was broke. Never once asked about my finances. Never wondered how I afforded anything. She just decided who I was and treated me accordingly. Still, marriage is supposed to be honest. I was honest about everything that mattered. My values, my character, my feelings. I returned to work. I just didn't tell her about money that was none of her business. Tom was quiet for a moment. What now? Now? I tightened a bolt. Now we see what happens when the power dynamic shifts. That sounds cold, Marcus. Maybe. I stood up, wiping my hands. Or maybe it's just honest. My phone buzzed. A text from Eleanor. We need to talk. Tonight. Please. I didn't respond. When I got home that evening, Eleanor was waiting in the living room. She'd clearly prepared. Makeup done. Hair perfect. wearing the dress I'd once said I loved. Hi, she said softly. Hi, will you sit with me? I sat in the chair, not the couch where she wanted me. She noticed. Something flickered across her face. I've been thinking, she started, about everything, about us. I waited. I was wrong about a lot of things. She twisted her hands together. I shouldn't have said I married you out of pity. I shouldn't have let my father treat you that way. I shouldn't have had the affair. Okay? That's it? Just okay? What do you want me to say, Eleanor? I want you to tell me we can fix this. Her voice broke. I want you to tell me it's not too late. I looked at her for a long moment. Really looked at her. This woman I'd loved. This woman who'd broken something fundamental between us. Why? I asked. Why what? Why do you want to fix it now? Is it because you actually love me? Or because you just found out I'm not who you thought I was? She flinched. That's not fair. Answer the question. I. She stopped, started again. I don't know. Maybe both. Does it matter? Yes, I said quietly. It matters a lot. Marcus, I made mistakes. I admit that. But you lied too. You pretended to be poor when you're. She gestured helplessly. You have $8 million. I never pretended anything. I am a mechanic. I do work at a garage. I do drive an old truck. That's all true? But you have millions. So, does that change who I think you am? Does money make me more worthy of respect? She opened her mouth, closed it. That's the problem, Eleanor. You only care now because you found out about the money. When you thought I was just a mechanic, I wasn't good enough. Your father was right to look down on me. Your friends were right to judge. You were right to have an affair. I never said that. You didn't have to. I stood up. Your actions said it loud enough. Where are you going? Out. Marcus, please, don't leave. Not like this. I paused at the door. You should call Lydia, or your father, someone who'll tell you what you want to hear. I want to hear from my husband. Then maybe you should have treated him like one. I left her there and drove to the dealership. The Lamborghini gleamed under the showroom lights. Want to take her for a spin? The dealer asked. Yeah, I said. I think I do. The engine roared to life. Pure power. Pure freedom. I drove through the city as the sun set. The car, handled like a dream. Every turn, every acceleration, it was perfection. People stared. Some took pictures. A few gave me thumbs up. I felt like myself for the first time in years. Not the version of myself Eleanor wanted. Not the version her father sneered at. Just me, Marcus Hill. A man who'd worked hard, invested smart, and built something real. I drove for hours, finally parked near the waterfront and sat watching the lights reflect off the water. My phone buzzed. Multiple texts from Eleanor. Where are you? Please come home. We need to talk about this. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Marcus, please, I turned off the phone. Tomorrow I'd deal with it. Tomorrow I'd face the inevitable. But tonight, I sat in a car I'd bought with my own money, and I let myself feel proud. When I finally went home, past midnight, Eleanor was asleep on the couch, wine glass empty on the table, her phone in her hand. I walked past her quietly and went to the guest room. I'd already started packing. Just small things, clothes, personal items, pictures of my parents. The house had never been mine anyway. In the morning, I woke to someone pounding on the door. Eleanor's voice, sharp and panicked. Marcus, open the door. I opened it. She stood there in yesterday's dress, mascara smudged, hair wild. Where were you? Out. Out where? I called you 50 times. I turned off my phone. She stared at me like I'd slapped her. You can't just disappear like that. Yes, I can. Marcus, this is serious. We need to talk about our marriage. about what happens next. I know what happens next, I said calmly. What does that mean? It means I'm moving out. This week. You can have the house. I don't want it. You can't just leave. Why not? You've already left. Emotionally, at least. I'm just making it official. Tears streamed down her face. I made a mistake. One mistake. And you're just going to throw away 2 years of marriage? One mistake? I stepped closer. Eleanor, you've been disrespecting me since before we got married. Every dinner with your father, every event where you introduced me like an embarrassment, every time you chose their opinions over my dignity, that's not one mistake. That's a pattern. I can change. Maybe you can, but I don't want to wait around to find out. So that's it? You're just done? I'm done being small in my own life. Done apologizing for who I am. Done hoping you'll wake up one day and actually see me. She grabbed my arm. I see you now. I gently removed her hand. You see my bank account. That's not the same thing. That's not true, isn't it? I moved past her. If I was still just a mechanic with nothing to my name, would we be having this conversation? Would you be begging me to stay? She didn't answer. That's what I thought. I went downstairs, made coffee, toast, acted like it was any other morning. Eleanor followed me, crying silently. What do you want from me? She asked finally. I turned to look at her, really look at her. Nothing, I said honestly. I don't want anything from you anymore. And I meant it. The next few days were strange. We lived like roommates, polite, distant, careful not to touch. Eleanor tried different tactics: anger, tears, bargaining. She brought up memories, good times we'd had, promises we'd made. I listened, acknowledged, felt nothing but sad certainty. One evening, she came home early. I was packing more boxes in the guest room. You're really leaving, she said from the doorway. Yes. Where will you go? I have a place lined up, small apartment downtown. She laughed bitterly. You can afford a mansion and you're choosing an apartment? I don't need a mansion. I never did. She sat on the bed, watching me pack. I talked to my father. I continued folding shirts. And? He said I should divorce you, take half of everything. He would say that. I told him no. I looked up. Why? Because I love you. Her voice cracked. I know I haven't shown it well. I know I've hurt you. But I do love you, Marcus. I zipped up the suitcase. Love isn't enough. Not without respect. I respect you. Now. Because of the money. But what about before? When you thought I had nothing? She had no answer. That's the problem, Eleanor. Your respect came with conditions. Your love came with conditions. And I'm tired of trying to meet them. So, you're just going to walk away? After everything? After everything? I faced her fully. You had an affair. You told me you married me out of pity. You let your family treat me like I was beneath them. What exactly am I walking away from? A marriage, vows, 2 years together. 2 years of me trying to be enough for you, trying to earn something you should have given freely. I picked up my suitcase. I'm done trying, Marcus. But I was already walking out. I moved into the apartment the next day. It was small, one bedroom, 10th floor with a view of the city. Nothing fancy, nothing that screamed wealth. It felt like home immediately. Tom helped me move the few boxes I'd packed. He didn't ask questions, just helped me unpack and ordered pizza. You good? He asked as we ate. Yeah, I said. I really am. Eleanor gonna fight the divorce? Probably. Her father will want her to. And the money? I shrugged. Prenup's solid. Everything I had before the marriage stays mine. She contributed nothing to my accounts. She'll walk away with the house and whatever's in our joint account, about 50,000. Tom whistled. She's not gonna be happy about that. She made her choices. I made mine. We ate in comfortable silence. Outside, the city lights flickered on as darkness fell. My phone buzzed. Eleanor again? Please come home. We can work this out. I blocked the number. Then I opened my banking app, looked at the numbers, looked at everything I'd built. For 2 years, I'd hidden this part of myself because I wanted to be loved for who I was, not what I had. Now I knew Eleanor had never loved who I was. She'd loved the idea of saving someone, of being better than someone, of having power over someone. And when that power disappeared, so did her interest. I closed the app and looked around my small apartment. This was enough. I was enough. Finally. The call from Eleanor's father came 3 days later. Marcus, Caleb Whitmore's voice was cold. We need to discuss the divorce settlement. Get a lawyer, I said. Don't be difficult. Eleanor tells me you have significant assets you failed to disclose during the marriage. I disclosed everything legally required. The prenup stands. We'll see about that. Go ahead and try. I smiled even though he couldn't see it. My lawyer's better than yours. You smug, he caught himself. You think you're clever, don't you? Hiding your money, making my daughter look foolish. I didn't make Eleanor look like anything. She did that herself. How dare you, Mr. Whitmore? For 2 years I sat at your table while you insulted me, while you treated me like trash, while you made it clear I wasn't good enough for your daughter. My voice stayed calm, level. And I stayed quiet because I loved Eleanor, because I wanted to make it work. Then why are you leaving? Because love requires respect, and none of you ever respected me. Not when you thought I was poor. The fact that you're calling now, trying to get a piece of what's mine, just proves you never cared about me as a person, only as an asset. Silence on the other end. The prenup stands, I repeated. Eleanor gets the house. I keep what's mine. That's fair. Fair? He laughed harshly. You played my daughter. No, I let her show me who she really was. There's a difference. I hung up. My hands were shaking, but I felt good, strong. For the first time in years, I'd stood up to Caleb Whitmore, and it felt amazing. That weekend, I went to see my mother. She lived in a modest house in the neighborhood where I'd grown up. Garden in the front, wind chimes on the porch, everything neat and cared for. She opened the door before I could knock. Baby, she said, pulling me into a hug. We sat in her kitchen, drinking tea like we'd done 1,000 times before. You look different, she said. Different how? Lighter, like you put down something heavy. I smiled. I did. A marriage that wasn't working. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. I'm proud of you. For getting divorced? For choosing yourself? For knowing your worth? She studied my face. That's harder than it sounds. We talked for hours about Eleanor, about the money she'd discovered, about my plans going forward. What will you do now? She asked. Keep working at the garage, keep flipping cars, maybe travel a little. I shrugged. Just live my life, on my terms. And if Eleanor comes back, really apologizes? I thought about it, really thought about it. I'd wish her well, I said finally, but I wouldn't go back. Some things, once broken, can't be fixed, and that's okay. My mother nodded. Your father would be proud of you too, the way you handled this, with dignity. I learned from the best. She laughed, wiped her eyes. Stay for dinner? Always. Later, driving back to my apartment in the Lamborghini, I'd finally brought it to my place. I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. Complete, total peace. Eleanor had taught me a valuable lesson, even if she hadn't meant to. You can't build a life with someone who sees you as a project. You can't love someone who needs you to be less so they can feel like more. And you can't stay somewhere you're not respected, no matter how much you want it to work. The city lights blurred past as I drove. Somewhere, Eleanor was probably trying to figure out what went wrong, but I already knew. She'd married someone she thought she could save, and she'd lost someone who never needed saving at all. 3 weeks after I moved out, the divorce papers arrived. I sat in my apartment, reading through the legalese. Eleanor's lawyer had tried to argue for more, claiming I'd hidden assets, demanding half of everything. My lawyer had shut it down in 2 pages. The prenup was ironclad. Everything I'd built before and during the marriage stayed mine. Eleanor kept the house, the joint account, and her own assets. Fair, clean, final. I signed the papers without hesitation. Work became my anchor. The Mustang restoration was finished. The owner picked it up on a Tuesday, eyes gleaming as he circled the car. "She's perfect," he breathed. "Absolutely perfect." "Thank you," I said. He handed me a check, then paused. "You know, I have a friend with a '67 Corvette. Needs a full restoration. You interested?" "Always." Word spread. Soon I had 3 more classic cars lined up, people willing to pay top dollar for quality work. Tom watched me thrive with a knowing smile. "You're coming alive again," he said one afternoon. "Haven't seen you like this since before the wedding." "I feel alive," I admitted. "Eleanor's still calling?" "Her lawyer is. Mine handles it." "Cold. Necessary." He nodded. Didn't judge, just accepted. That was the thing about real friends. They didn't need you to explain. 4 weeks after I moved out, I saw her. I was leaving a coffee shop downtown when Eleanor appeared on the sidewalk. She looked thinner, tired. Her clothes were still expensive, but something about her seemed diminished. "Marcus," she said. "Eleanor." We stood there awkwardly. People flowed around us on the sidewalk. "You look good," she said finally. "Thanks. Can we talk? Just for a minute?" I checked my watch. "I have somewhere to be. Please. 5 minutes." Something in her voice made me nod. We moved to a bench near the coffee shop. "I signed the papers," she said. "I know. My lawyer told me." "That's it? That's all we are now? Lawyers talking?" I looked at her, really looked at her. "What did you expect, Eleanor?" "I don't know. She twisted her hands together. "I thought maybe we could be friends. Eventually." "Maybe, eventually." I softened slightly. "But not now. It's too fresh." She nodded. Tears welled in her eyes. "I miss you. You miss the idea of me, the man you thought you could shape into something." "That's not true." "Isn't it?" I leaned back. "Tell me something, Eleanor. If you'd never found out about the money, would you have tried to fix things? Or would you have just filed for divorce and moved on with James?" She flinched at his name. "That's what I thought." I stood up. "Take care of yourself." "Marcus, wait." I paused. "I'm sorry," she said. "I mean it. I'm really, truly sorry. For all of it. The things I said. The way I treated you. The affair. Everything." I believed her. For the first time, I actually believed she meant it. "I know," I said gently, "and I forgive you." Hope flickered across her face. "But forgiveness doesn't mean going back," I continued. "It just means I'm not carrying anger anymore. I'm letting it go so I can move forward." The hope died. She nodded slowly. "Goodbye, Eleanor." "Goodbye, Marcus." I walked away. Didn't look back. Behind me, I heard her crying softly. I felt sad, but not guilty. Some endings were necessary, even when they hurt. 6 weeks after I moved out, I ran into Lydia, Eleanor's friend, the one who'd laughed with her about marrying beneath herself. She was at a restaurant with friends, spotted me at the bar waiting for takeout. "Marcus?" She approached with that fake smile I'd come to recognize. "How are you?" "Good. I heard about you and Eleanor, such a shame." "Is it?" Her smile faltered. "Well, yes. 2 years of marriage ending like that? Sometimes things end when they're supposed to." I suppose. She glanced at my watch, a Rolex I'd stopped hiding. Doing well for yourself, I see. Always have been. Understanding dawned. So the rumors are true. You really did have money all along. Yes. Why didn't you tell anyone? I looked at her directly. Why should I have? Would it have changed how Eleanor treated me? How her father talked to me? How you and your friends looked at me? She had the grace to look embarrassed. That's what I thought. I grabbed my takeout order. Have a good night, Lydia. Marcus, wait. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. About laughing. About the things we said. It's worth exactly what it cost you to say it, I replied. Nothing. I left her standing there. 2 months after I moved out, the divorce was finalized. I was officially single again. I didn't celebrate, didn't commiserate, just acknowledged it and kept living. At the garage, I worked on a beautiful '69 Camaro, orange with black racing stripes. The owner wanted it perfect for his daughter's graduation gift. Must be nice, Jake said, watching me work. Having that kind of money, being able to buy your kid a classic car. It's not about the money, I said. It's about the meaning, the gesture, showing someone you care. Deep thoughts for a Tuesday. I smiled. Eleanor used to say I wasn't deep enough, not cultured enough. Eleanor was an idiot, Tom called from across the shop. Nah, I said. She wasn't an idiot. She just valued the wrong things. And you don't? I value work, loyalty, respect, honesty. I tightened a bolt. The things that matter regardless of how much money you have. Tom walked over. You happy, Marcus? Really happy? I thought about it. My small apartment, my work, my freedom, my peace. Yeah, I said. I really am. 3 months after the divorce, I saw Eleanor again. I was driving the Lamborghini, finally driving it openly, finally not hiding, when I stopped at a red light near the cafe district. Eleanor stood on the sidewalk. She was with friends, laughing at something. Then she saw the car, saw me. Her face went through several emotions: shock, recognition, something like regret. Our eyes met across the distance. I didn't smile, didn't frown, just looked at her calmly. The light turned green. I drove away. In the rearview mirror, I saw her standing frozen on the sidewalk, watching me go. That night, I got a text from an unknown number. It was good to see you today. You looked happy. That car is beautiful. I'm glad you're not hiding anymore. E. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed back, "Thank you. I hope you're well." I didn't save the number, didn't start a conversation, just acknowledged her words and moved on, because that was all there was left to do. 4 months after the divorce, my mother called with news. I ran into Patricia Whitmore at the grocery store, she said. Patricia, Eleanor's mother. And? She asked about you, how you were doing. What did you tell her? That you're thriving, that you're happy, that you're exactly where you're supposed to be. I smiled. What did she say? She said Eleanor's not doing well, that she's seeing a therapist, working through things. That's good. Everyone should have support. She also said, my mother paused. She said Eleanor finally understands what she lost. I was quiet for a moment. It's too late for understanding, I said finally. But I hope it helps her move forward. You're not angry anymore. No, anger takes energy I'd rather spend on other things. My mother laughed softly. When did you get so wise? I learned from you. Flatterer. We talked about other things. Her garden, my latest car project, the trip I was planning to Morocco. Normal things, good things, life moving forward. 6 months after the divorce, I went on my first date. Her name was Simone, a teacher I'd met at a community event. Brown skin, natural hair, a laugh that lit up rooms. We had coffee. Talked for 3 hours. She didn't ask what I did for money, didn't care about my car or my watch. She asked about my favorite books, my dreams, what made me laugh. It felt easy, natural, right? I have to be honest, I said toward the end. I just got divorced 6 months ago. I appreciate your honesty. She studied me. Are you over her? I thought about Eleanor, about the marriage, about everything we'd been and failed to be. Yes, I said, I am. Then the past is the past. Simone smiled. I'm more interested in right now. We made plans for a second date. Walking to my car afterward, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Hope, real hope. Not hope that someone would change, but hope that something new could begin. It felt good. 1 year after I moved out, I saw Eleanor one last time. I was having breakfast at a diner near my apartment when she walked in, alone. She didn't see me at first, looked around for a seat, then our eyes met. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then I nodded toward the empty seat across from me. She hesitated, then walked over. Hi, she said. Hi. We sat in silence for a moment. The waitress came by. Eleanor ordered coffee. How are you? She asked finally. Good. Really good. I paused. You? Better? Not great, but better. She smiled sadly. I'm in therapy, working on myself. That's good. I've learned a lot about why I did what I did, about my issues with control, about how I treated you. I listened. I know it's too late for apologies to matter, she continued, but I want you to know I understand now. What I did, what I lost. I appreciate that. Do you hate me? I looked at her, really looked at her. This woman I'd loved, this woman who'd hurt me, this woman who was trying to be better. No, I said honestly. I don't hate you. I don't really feel much of anything anymore, and I mean that in the best way possible. She nodded. Indifference. The opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference. Something like that. Her coffee came. She wrapped her hands around the mug. I see you sometimes, she said. Around town. In your car. Looking happy. I am happy. Are you seeing someone? Yes. Something flickered across her face. That's good. You deserve happiness. So do you, Eleanor. Maybe someday. She took a sip of coffee. I sold the house. That surprised me. Really? Too big. Too many memories. Too much of my father's influence. She smiled slightly. I bought a condo downtown. Small. Mine. Starting over. Good for you. We talked for another 20 minutes. Easy conversation. No anger, no blame. Just two people who'd once meant something to each other, acknowledging what was and what wasn't anymore. When she left, she paused at the door. Thank you, she said. For what? For being exactly who you were. Even when I couldn't see it. Even when I didn't deserve it. Then she was gone. I sat there for a while, finishing my breakfast. Outside, the sun was shining. The city was alive. The world kept turning. And I was okay. More than okay. I was free. Epilogue. Some mornings, I still think about Eleanor, not with anger, not with regret, just with the quiet acknowledgement that she was a chapter in my story, an important one, but still just a chapter. I think about the man I was when we met, hopeful, naive, willing to hide parts of myself to be loved. And I think about the man I am now, complete, confident, unwilling to shrink for anyone. The marriage taught me something valuable. You can't build a life with someone who needs you to be less so they can feel like more. Love should elevate both people, should celebrate both people, should see both people. Eleanor saw a project, a charity case, someone to save. She never saw me. But that was okay now, because I saw myself, clearly, completely, honestly. I work at Tom's Garage because I love the work. I drive my Lamborghini because I earned it. I live in a modest apartment because it's enough. I don't need to prove anything to anyone anymore. I date Simone. We take things slow. She knows my story, knows my past, doesn't judge it, just accepts me as I am. Sometimes I see Eleanor around town. She always looks surprised to see me living well, living fully, living freely. I think it bothers her sometimes. The idea that I didn't need her wealth or her connections or her saving, that the man she pitied was never poor at all, just quiet about his wealth. My mother says that's my victory. That quiet dignity always wins in the end. Maybe she's right, or maybe there's no victory here at all. Just two people who tried and failed and moved on. Either way, I'm at peace. Some mornings, when I'm driving to work in the Lamborghini, I see my reflection in the rearview mirror. I smile at the man looking back. He's earned every bit of peace he has, every bit of freedom, every bit of himself. Eleanor once said she married me out of pity, but pity was never love, and I never needed saving. I just needed someone who could see me, really see me. She couldn't. So I left, and in leaving, I found something more valuable than her family's money or approval or mercy. I found myself whole, complete, enough. That's worth more than any marriage built on pity could ever be. The end.